The Zephyrian homeworld system looked like a fortress. Every ship in their military had been called back to defend their capital. 80,000 warships formed defensive lines around the planet where the decision to massacre New Terra had been made. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Titan's Fury as his fleet approached the system. Behind him came 200,000 human warships, their dark hulls reflecting the light of the Zephyrian sun. "Sir," said Lieutenant Commander Ryan Cooper, "the Zephyrian Supreme Commander is requesting to speak with you." Jake looked at the tactical display showing both fleets. The aliens had gathered everything they had left, but it still wasn't enough. "Put him through." The screen flickered, and Supreme Commander Vextar appeared. He was the same alien who had ordered the attack on New Terra. Jake had been waiting 2 years to see his face again. "Human Admiral," Vextar said, "I propose we negotiate. This war has gone on long enough." Jake's voice was cold and steady. "New Terra had children playing in parks when your ships arrived. They had families sitting down to dinner. They had elderly people tending gardens. You forfeited the right to negotiate when you chose genocide." "That was a military necessity," Vextar replied. "Humans were becoming too numerous in that sector." "A military necessity." Jake repeated the words slowly. "You murdered 2.3 million civilians because you thought there were too many humans in the galaxy." Captain Lisa Rodriguez stepped closer to Jake. She could see the anger building in his face, the same anger that had been growing for over 2 years. "Supreme Commander," Jake continued, "I want you to look at your tactical display. Count my ships, then count yours, then tell me what you think is going to happen next." Vextar looked at his screens. 200,000 human ships against 80,000 Zephyrian vessels. The numbers were impossible to argue with. "What do you want?" Vextar asked quietly. "Justice, full acknowledgement of the crime committed at New Terra, reparations paid to every victim's family, and a guarantee that nothing like this will ever happen again." "And if we refuse?" Jake's smile was not pleasant. "Then you won't have to worry about it much longer." The communication ended. Jake turned to his fleet commanders who were waiting for orders. "All ships," he announced over the fleet communication network. "This is Admiral Morrison. The aliens who murdered our families are waiting for us. Show them what human justice looks like." The battle began immediately. Captain Rachel Bennett led the first assault wave, her squadron of 10,000 heavy cruisers smashing into the Zephyrian outer defenses. The alien ships tried to fight back, but their weapons couldn't penetrate human shields. Dr. Susan Blake's research had been perfect. The human weapons cut through Zephyrian armor like it was made of thin metal. Alien ships exploded one after another as the human fleet advanced. Colonel Tim Johnson was commanding the ground assault forces. His job was to capture the planet after the space battle ended. He watched from his transport ship as the orbital defenses were destroyed. "Look at that," Tim said to his officers. 2 years of planning, and it's over in hours." The space battle was not really a battle. It was a demonstration of what happened when a superior force met an inferior one. The Zephyrian fleet fought bravely, but bravery could not overcome the massive difference in numbers and technology. Within 6 hours, the Zephyrian fleet was destroyed. Their homeworld lay defenseless before the human armada. Supreme Commander Vextar sent one final message. "We surrender. Please, spare our people." Jake looked out at the planet where the order to destroy New Terra had been given. "Your people will be spared. Your government will not." Colonel Johnson's ground forces landed on the planet and secured the capital city. The Zephyrian government was arrested and charged with crimes against humanity. Vextar himself was taken into custody by human military police. With the Zephyrian military destroyed, the rest of the galaxy realized that resistance was pointless. One by one, alien governments began sending messages of surrender to Admiral Morrison. The Krellian Empire was first. Emperor Zalseth sent a formal apology for calling humans insignificant vermin. He agreed to pay reparations and acknowledge the crime at New Terra. The Astari Federation followed quickly. Their Council of Ministers voted unanimously to accept human demands for justice. They also agreed to new laws protecting civilian populations during military conflicts. Even the Velkari Republic, humanity's former allies, sent messages begging for forgiveness. They offered to pay double reparations and signed a treaty promising eternal friendship with humanity. President Andrew Carter addressed the galaxy from the ruins of the Zephyrian Military Command Center. Jake stood beside him as alien leaders, watched from across the stars. "Today justice has been served," Carter announced. "The criminals who ordered the massacre at New Terra have been captured. The military forces that carried out that crime have been destroyed. The governments that ignored our calls for help have learned the consequences of their silence." Behind Carter, human ships patrolled the Zephyrian system. The message was clear. Humanity was now the dominant power in the galaxy. "We are establishing the new Galactic Accords," Carter continued. "Every civilization will acknowledge the crime committed at New Terra. Every government will pay reparations to the victims' families. And every military will follow new laws protecting civilian populations." Jake stepped forward to address the alien leaders directly. "You wanted to know humanity's place in the cosmic order. Here it is. We are the ones who remember our dead. We are the ones who answer genocide with justice. We are the ones who build 900,000 warships when peaceful solutions fail." The words became famous across the galaxy. Within days, every alien child knew the story of humanity's great fleet and the justice it had delivered. Captain Jennifer Liu was commanding a patrol squadron in what used to be Krellian space. Her ships were monitoring alien military activities to make sure the peace agreements were being followed. "Captain," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving a trade proposal from the local government. They're offering very favorable terms." Jennifer smiled. "Funny how polite they've become since we destroyed their fleet." Similar reports were coming in from across the galaxy. Alien governments that had once ignored humanity were now competing to offer the best trade deals and diplomatic agreements. Commander Nathan Ross had been promoted to Galactic Peacekeeping Coordinator. His job was to make sure the new accords were followed and that civilian populations were protected. Admiral Morrison, Nathan reported during their weekly meeting, "Alien compliance with the accords is at 100%. No violations reported." Jake nodded. "Good. And our reserve fleet?" "Still under construction. Current estimates put it at completion in 18 months. If the aliens think 900,000 ships was impressive, wait until they see what we build next." The galaxy had learned that humanity's capacity for both creation and destruction was beyond anything they had imagined. In 2 years, humans had built the largest military fleet in history. Now they were building an even larger one. On Earth, families of New Terra victims were receiving reparation payments from alien governments. The money could not bring back their loved ones, but it was acknowledgement that their lives had mattered. Admiral Morrison stood in his office on the Titan's Fury, looking out at the human fleet still patrolling alien space. The galaxy was at peace, but it was a peace enforced by overwhelming human military power. Captain Rodriguez entered his office carrying a report. "Sir, the latest intelligence estimates say that alien military production has dropped by 70%. They're afraid to build too many ships." "Good," Jake replied. "Fear will keep them honest." Lisa looked out at the stars. "Do you think we went too far?" Jake thought about New Terra, about the children who had died, about the galaxy's silence when humanity asked for justice. "No," he said quietly. "We went exactly far enough. The galaxy will never forget what happens when you murder human families and think there will be no consequences." The human fleet continued its patrols, ensuring that justice was maintained and that New Terra would never be forgotten. The galaxy remained silent, not out of fear alone, but out of respect for the species that had proved that justice, once awakened, could not be stopped. And In the shipyards of human space, construction continued on the reserve fleet that would ensure the peace lasted forever. General Patricia Stone stood in the war room deep beneath the surface of Luna. The moon's command center was the nerve center of human military operations. Massive screens covered every wall, showing ship positions across dozens of star systems. Stone was a veteran of 40 years in space. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her green eyes missed nothing. The message from Admiral Morrison had arrived an hour ago. Protocol 7, full fleet mobilization. Stone had hoped she would never need to use those words. "Ma'am, we have confirmation from all sector commands," reported Colonel Martinez, her aide. "The recall is proceeding as ordered." Stone nodded slowly. Around the room, hundreds of officers worked at computer stations. They were coordinating the largest military movement in human history. Ships that had been scattered across 50 light years were now turning toward a single destination. "What's our current count?" Stone asked. Colonel Martinez checked his tablet. 4,733 vessels of all classes, General. That includes transport ships and supply vessels. "Combat ships only," Stone said. 2,400 supercarriers, 800 battleships, 1,200 destroyers. Martinez paused. "General, Admiral Morrison only requested 1,000 supercarriers." Stone smiled grimly. "Jake Morrison is a good man, but he thinks small. When humans go to war, we don't send just enough ships. We send more ships than the enemy can count." The other side of human space, Admiral Danny Garcia received his orders aboard the massive vessel USS Freedom. The ship was 12 kilometers long and carried 30,000 crew members. Garcia was Morrison's old friend from the academy. They had served together during the first expansion wars. "XO, what's our status?" Garcia asked his second in command. "Commander." Kelly Brooks checked her display. "Second Fleet reports ready, Admiral. 300 supercarriers standing by for jump. Third Fleet is moving to join us. Admiral Turner says he'll have another 200 ships ready within the hour." Garcia walked to the main viewer. Outside, he could see the vast formation of human warships. Each supercarrier was a city in space. They carried thousands of fighters, bombers, and assault craft. Their weapons could crack planets in half. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Captain Thompson," Brooks reported. Captain Nick Thompson appeared on the screen. He was young for a ship commander, only 35 years old. But he had proven himself in the border conflicts with the Centauri pirates. His ship, the USS New Dawn, was one of the newest supercarriers in the fleet. "Admiral Garcia, my battle group is ready to move," Thompson said. 50 supercarriers armed and fueled. "My pilots are eager to see what these aliens can do." Garcia nodded. "Good work, Nick. But remember, we don't know what we're facing yet. These Zephyrians might have tricks we haven't seen." Thompson grinned. "Sir, with respect, I don't care what tricks they have. Each of my ships carries more firepower than most planets have ever seen, and that's just my battle group." The truth was exactly what Thompson said. 60 years ago, humanity had faced the Proxima Wars. Alien raiders had attacked human colonies and killed millions of civilians. The government had made a decision that day. Never again would humanity be caught unprepared. Earth's 47 orbital shipyards had been working ever since. They built ships day and night, year after year. Giant factories in space churned out hulls, engines, and weapons. The asteroid belt had been strip-mined to provide raw materials. Entire moons had been hollowed out to create manufacturing centers. The result was a military machine that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen. Back on Morrison's flagship, Dr. Phillips was analyzing intelligence reports. The aliens had no idea what was coming their way. Their scouts had seen a few human patrol ships and made assumptions. Bad assumptions. "Admiral, I've been studying their communications," Phillips said. "They keep talking about our 100 ships like it's a fact. Their Empress seems to think we're a minor local power." Morrison laughed. "A minor local power? Ryan, we have more ships in the reserve fleet than most empires have in total." Captain Chang was studying tactical displays. Sir, long-range sensors are picking up the first wave of our reinforcements. Battle Group Alpha is jumping in now. On the screen, space began to fill with blue dots. Each dot was a human warship. More and more appeared as ships arrived from across human space. How many? Morrison asked. 200 supercarriers in the first wave, Chang reported. Battle Group Beta is 30 minutes behind them. That's another 200 ships. Morrison turned to his communications officer. Brady, send a message to the Zephyrian Empress. Tell her our negotiation offer still stands, but also inform her that additional human vessels are arriving to ensure peaceful discussions. Meanwhile, on the edge of Zephyrian space, General Korath was receiving very disturbing reports. His scout ships had been watching human movements for the past 6 hours. What they saw made no sense. General, the humans keep bringing more ships, reported his intelligence officer. Our count is now at 400 vessels and rising. Korath frowned. That's impossible. Our intelligence clearly stated they have 100 ships total. Sir, perhaps our intelligence was wrong. The general's blood ran cold. If their intelligence was wrong about human ship numbers, what else were they wrong about? He had seen what happened to empires that underestimated their enemies. Continue monitoring, he ordered, and send everything we observed directly to the Empress. But Empress Valdera was not listening to reports. She was too angry to think clearly. The human admiral's polite response had been even more insulting than open defiance. How dare these primitives treat her like an equal? Majesty, we're receiving updated intelligence from our forward scouts, General Korath said carefully. I don't care about their intelligence, Valdera snapped. I care about making these humans pay for their arrogance. But, Majesty, the reports suggest they may have more ships than we initially thought. Valdera turned her golden eyes on her general. How many more? 200? 300? Korath, we have conquered species with 1,000 ships. These humans are nothing. Korath wanted to tell her that their scouts were now counting over 600 human vessels. He wanted to explain that each human ship was larger than anything in the Zephyrian fleet. He wanted to suggest that perhaps they should reconsider their approach. But he knew better than to contradict the Empress when she was in this mood. Back in human space, the mobilization continued. Ships arrived in groups of 50 and 100. Massive supply vessels brought fuel and ammunition. Medical ships prepared for casualties. Engineering vessels stood ready to repair battle damage. Admiral Morrison watched the growing fleet with satisfaction. Soon he would have more firepower than any military commander in galactic history. But power without purpose was meaningless. He needed to use this force wisely. Sir, we now have 800 supercarriers in formation, Captain Chang reported. Admiral Garcia's second fleet will arrive within 12 hours with another 300 ships. Morrison nodded. Good. Once we reach full strength, we'll move towards Zephyrian space. But slowly. I want them to see us coming. Maybe they'll reconsider their position. He didn't know that across the galaxy, an Empress was making the biggest mistake of her very long life. She was about to learn that humans didn't fight wars the way other species did. When humanity went to war, they brought everything they had, and they had been preparing for this moment for 60 years. 2 years had passed since humanity went silent. The galaxy had grown used to the quiet from human space, but that quiet was becoming uncomfortable. No human ships appeared at trade stations. No human diplomats attended galactic council meetings. No human messages reached alien communication networks. Captain Danny Torres walked through the massive construction bay at Proxima Station. The noise was incredible. Thousands of workers moved between half-built ships while robotic arms welded hull plates and installed weapon systems. The air smelled of hot metal and burning fuel. Status report, Danny called to his chief engineer. Mary Phillips looked up from her data pad. She had grease on her hands and dark circles under her eyes from working 18-hour days. We've completed 12,000 ships so far. The new assembly lines are working better than we hoped. Danny nodded and looked out at the construction floor. Ships of every size filled the enormous space. Massive carriers that could hold hundreds of fighters sat next to sleek destroyers and heavily armed cruisers. Each ship was painted the same dark gray color that seemed to absorb light. "The AI systems are helping us build faster than any alien civilization has ever managed," Mary continued. "We're recycling materials with 98% efficiency. Nothing is wasted." Across the galaxy, alien intelligence officers were getting frustrated. They had been trying to penetrate human space for 2 years, but every probe ship that approached human territory was destroyed by automated defense platforms. The platforms appeared out of nowhere, fired once, and then vanished back into space. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the Titan's Fury, watching construction reports from across human space. Every shipyard was working at maximum capacity. New facilities were being built on moons and asteroids. Humanity had turned its entire civilization into a war machine. "Sir," said Lieutenant Commander Ryan Cooper from his communication station, "we're getting strange reports from alien space." Jake turned toward him. "What kind of reports?" "Alien traders near our borders are reporting sensor ghosts. Ships that appear on scanners but aren't really there. Some are claiming they've detected impossible energy readings." Jake smiled. "Those weren't ghosts. They were human stealth ships conducting reconnaissance missions deep in alien territory. For 2 years, humanity had been mapping every alien military base, every defense station, and every fleet position. Captain Nicole Adams commanded one of those stealth ships. The UES Shadowrunner was designed to be invisible to alien sensors. It could slip past their defenses and record everything without being detected. "We're approaching the Zephyrian military base at Kepler Station," Nicole told her crew. "Remember, we observe and record. No contact, no matter what we see." The Shadowrunner drifted silently past Zephyrian patrol ships. The aliens had no idea. Humans were watching them. Nicole recorded their ship designs, their weapon systems, and their patrol patterns. All of this information would be useful when the human fleet finally launched. "Look at this," said her tactical officer, pointing at his screen. "Their defenses are exactly where they were 6 months ago. They haven't changed anything." Nicole shook her head. "They think we're beaten. They think we're hiding in our space feeling sorry for ourselves." Meanwhile, on the Zephyrian homeworld, General Vextar was meeting with Admiral Krellnos. They were discussing the strange reports coming from ships near human space. "Our captains are getting nervous," Krellnos said. "They claim human ships are appearing and disappearing like phantoms." Vextar laughed. "Humans are cowards. They're probably testing some new stealth technology, but they're too afraid to use it. The massacre at New Terra taught them their place." "Perhaps we should investigate," Krellnos suggested. "Waste of time," Vextar replied. "Humans learned their lesson. They won't bother us again." Back in human space, Dr. Susan Blake was working in her laboratory on Luna Station. She was studying alien technology that had been captured in previous conflicts. Her work was highly classified, and only a few people knew what she was doing. "The Krellian energy shields have a weakness at a specific frequency," she explained to Admiral Morrison during a secure video call. "If we modify our plasma cannons to match that frequency, we can punch through their defenses like they're made of paper." "What about Astari armor plating?" Jake asked. "Even better. Their metal becomes brittle when exposed to certain electromagnetic pulses. I've designed a new torpedo that can disable their entire ship with one hit." Jake was impressed. Human scientists had spent 2 years studying every piece of alien technology they could find. They had discovered weaknesses that the aliens didn't even know they had. "How are the new weapon systems coming along?" Jake asked. "We've finished testing. Every ship in the fleet will be equipped with weapons specifically designed to counter alien defenses. They won't know what hit them." Construction was accelerating across human space. Captain Torres reported that Proxima Station was now completing 500 ships per week. Other shipyards were reporting similar progress. The numbers were staggering. Lieutenant Commander Cooper was monitoring alien communication networks. The aliens were starting to notice that something was wrong. Trade routes near human space were becoming unreliable. Alien merchants were refusing to fly near human borders. "Sir," Cooper said to Admiral Morrison, "I'm intercepting nervous chatter from alien military commands. They're starting to ask questions about what we're doing." "Let them wonder," Jake replied. "Fear is a powerful weapon." Mary Phillips was working on the final ship designs. The biggest vessels were the size of small cities. They carried thousands of fighters and enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. The smallest ships were fast attack vessels that could strike quickly and disappear. "Admiral," Mary called Jake on the communication system, "I need to show you something." Jake appeared on her screen. Behind him, she could see the bridge of the Titan's Fury. "We've just completed the prototype for the new Dreadnought class," Mary said. "It's 3 times larger than anything the aliens have ever built. The weapons alone could level a planet." "How many can we build?" Jake asked. "With current production rates, about 50,000. Jake was quiet for a moment. 50,000 dreadnoughts. That was more firepower than most alien civilizations had in their entire military. The months continued to pass. Human space remained silent, but activity was increasing. New mining operations started on asteroids. Factories worked around the clock. Transport ships moved raw materials between systems. Captain Nicole Adams continued her reconnaissance missions. She had mapped the defenses of dozens of alien worlds. What she found was disturbing. The aliens had become lazy and overconfident. Their defenses were weak, and their fleets were scattered. "They think the war is over," she reported to Admiral Morrison. "They think they won when they destroyed New Terra." Jake looked at the tactical displays showing alien fleet positions. "They're about to learn that the war hasn't even started yet." Dr. Blake finished her research on alien weaknesses. Every major alien species had critical vulnerabilities that human weapons could exploit. The Zephyrians relied too heavily on energy shields. The Krellians had outdated armor. The Astari used predictable tactical formations. "We know how to beat them," she told Jake during their final meeting. "Every single one of them." As the second year ended, the construction numbers were incredible. 850,000 ships had been completed. The remaining 50,000 would be finished within weeks. Admiral Morrison stood in his ready room, looking at reports from across human space. Every shipyard commander reported the same thing. Construction was ahead of schedule. The fleet would be ready soon. President Carter called from Earth. "Admiral, the Joint Chiefs want to know when you'll be ready to launch." Jake looked at the numbers one more time. 900,000 warships, the largest military fleet in galactic history, ships designed specifically to destroy alien defenses. Crews trained for 2 years in complete secrecy. "Give me 1 more month, Mr. President," Jake said. "Then we'll show the galaxy what happens when you murder our children and think we'll just forget about it." The silent buildup was almost complete. The purple ships of the Zephyrian Empire moved through space like deadly shadows. Their hulls gleamed with an alien metal that seemed to drink in starlight. On the bridge of the flagship, Empress Valdara Keth stood 8 feet tall, her 4 arms crossed behind her back. Her pale blue skin showed the silver markings of royal blood. She had ruled the Andromeda Spiral for 200 years, just like her mother before her. Today brought news that angered her. "Tell me again what these humans have done," Valdara said to her scout captain. Her voice carried the weight of absolute power. Captain Zerion bowed low. His own blue skin showed the darker markings of a soldier. "Your Majesty, they have built mining stations on 7 worlds in the Outer Rim. They claim these worlds belong to them now." Valdara's golden eyes flashed with rage. "Belong to them? Every star in this spiral belongs to the Zephyrian Empire. These humans are nothing but primitives who learned to fly between planets yesterday." She turned to look out at the stars. For 3,000 years, her people had ruled here. They had crushed the rock people of Titan Prime. They had burned the crystal cities of the Vegan Collective. They had made the machine race of Proxima Bow before Zephyrian might. Every species learned the same lesson in the end. The Zephyrians were superior in every way. "What do we know about their military?" Valdara asked. Her war advisor, General Korath, stepped forward. He carried the scars of 100 battles across his massive frame. "Intelligence reports suggest they have perhaps 100 ships, Majesty. Their technology appears crude. No energy shields, no psychic weapons. They use simple projectile guns and basic missiles." Valdara laughed. The sound was cold and sharp. 100 ships? We have crushed empires with 1,000 times that number." She gestured to the view screen showing her own fleet. 50 magnificent dreadnoughts stretched out in perfect formation. "Each one could destroy a planet if needed. Send a message to their leaders," she commanded. "Tell them they have exactly 1 standard day to remove all humans from Zephyrian space. If they refuse, we will remove them ourselves." Meanwhile, 3 billion miles away, Admiral Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the human flagship. The bridge around him buzzed with quiet activity. Officers worked at their stations with calm efficiency. Morrison was a tall man with gray hair and steady brown eyes. He had fought in the Proxima Wars 20 years ago. He knew what real combat looked like. His communications officer, Lieutenant Brady, looked up from his console. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from an alien vessel. They're demanding we evacuate all human settlements in this sector within 24 hours. Morrison raised one eyebrow. "Are they now? Put it on screen." The image that appeared made several bridge officers step back. Empress Valdara's alien features filled the screen. Her voice carried absolute authority as she spoke. I'm Empress Valdara Keth, ruler of the Zephyrian Empire. You humans have trespassed in space that belongs to my people. Remove your primitive settlements immediately, or face the consequences. This is your only warning." The transmission ended. Morrison sat quietly for a moment, thinking. Captain Lisa Chang, his tactical advisor, moved to stand beside his chair. She was a small woman with quick eyes and quicker reflexes. "What do you think, Admiral?" she asked. Morrison smiled slightly. "I think this Empress doesn't know much about humans." He turned to Brady. "Open a channel. Send this response." The communication screen activated. Morrison stood up, straightening his blue uniform. When he spoke, his voice was calm and polite. "Your Majesty, I am Admiral Jake Morrison of the Human Space Force. I appreciate your message, but I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. The worlds in question were surveyed and claimed by human exploration teams according to standard galactic law. We have no intention of abandoning lawful settlements. Perhaps we could arrange a meeting to discuss territorial boundaries like civilized beings." He nodded to Brady, who cut the transmission. On her flagship, Valdara stared at the empty screen. Her 4 hands slowly clenched into fists. Around her, the bridge fell silent. No one had ever spoken to the Empress with such casual disrespect. "Did that primitive just refuse my command?" she asked quietly. General Korath shifted uncomfortably. "It appears so, Majesty. Perhaps they don't understand our power." Valdara's eyes blazed. "Then we will teach them. Prepare the war fleet. We march to human space immediately." "Should we recall ships from other sectors?" Korath asked. "No," Valdara said. "These humans have 100 ships at most. Our current force of 200 vessels will be more than enough. We will crush them quickly and move on to more important matters." She didn't notice the worried look that passed between her advisors. None of them dared to question the Empress when her rage was burning. Back on the human flagship, Dr. Ryan Phillips entered the bridge carrying a data pad. He was the fleet's intelligence chief, a thin man with sharp features and sharper instincts. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the alien transmission," he said. "Their technology is definitely advanced. Energy shields, some kind of psychic capability, weapons we haven't seen before." Morrison nodded. "How many ships do they have?" Best estimate? About 200 in their main fleet, possibly more scattered across their territory. Phillips paused. Sir, they seem to think we only have 100 ships. Captain Chang laughed quietly. Only 100? Someone hasn't done their homework. Morrison stood up and walked to the main display. It showed a tactical map of local space. Red dots marked Zephyrian positions. Blue dots showed human forces. There were a lot more blue dots. Brady, send a message to Fleet Command on Earth, Morrison ordered. Tell them we have a situation that requires Protocol 7. Brady's fingers flew over his console. Message sent, Admiral. Shall I prepare the fleet for combat operations? Morrison looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, an alien empress thought she could push humanity around. She was about to learn a very painful lesson about human nature. Not yet, he said, quietly. But start the recall process. Signal all patrol groups to return to base. And Brady... Yes, sir. Morrison's smile was cold. Send a message to Admiral Garcia's Second Fleet. Tell him he might want to join us for this party. As the bridge crew worked to carry out his orders, Morrison thought about the alien empress. She commanded 200 ships and thought that made her powerful. She was about to discover that humans had been building ships for a very long time. They had been building them in numbers that would make gods weep. The Zephyrian Empire was about to meet humanity at full strength. Morrison almost felt sorry for them. The morning of the launch, Admiral Jake Morrison woke up before his alarm. He had been waiting for this day for 2 years and 4 months. Today, humanity would show the galaxy what real military power looked like. He walked to the bridge of the UES Titan's Fury and found his crew already at their stations. Everyone knew what was happening. The entire human military had been preparing for this moment. Status report, Jake said as he sat in his command chair. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Cooper turned from his communication station. All fleet commanders are reporting ready, sir. 900,000 ships are prepared for launch across 237 star systems. Jake nodded. The numbers still seemed impossible, even to him. 900,000 warships, more military vessels than the rest of the galaxy had ever seen in one place. Sir, said Captain Lisa Rodriguez, walking onto the bridge. Vice Admiral, Patricia Stone is requesting final authorization to begin the advance. Jake looked at the tactical display showing human space. Every system was filled with ships. Massive carriers floated next to sleek destroyers. Heavy cruisers sat alongside. Fast attack vessels. The fleet was so large that it took up entire star systems. Tell Admiral Stone she has authorization. Operation Reckoning begins now. Across human space, the launch began. At Proxima Station, Captain Danny Torres watched as the first wave of ships powered up their engines. The dreadnoughts moved slowly, their massive hulls blocking out the stars. Behind them came the carriers, loaded with thousands of fighters. All ships, this is Torres Control, Danny said into his communication system. You are cleared for departure. Good hunting. The ships began to move, one by one, then in groups, then in massive formations. The sight was incredible. Ships stretched, from one end of the star system to the other, all moving in perfect coordination. At Titan shipyards, Rear Admiral Charles King was leading his siege squadrons. These were the ships designed to break through heavy defenses. They carried the most powerful weapons humanity had ever built. Remember, Charles told his captains, we hit hard and fast. No mercy for military targets, but civilian populations are off limits. We're not like the aliens who murdered our families. Meanwhile, Captain Nicole Adams was already deep in alien space aboard the UES Shadowrunner. Her stealth ship had been watching alien defenses for weeks, waiting for this moment. All reconnaissance teams, this is Shadow Leader, Nicole said into her secure communication system. The fleet is launching. Begin final target confirmation. Nicole's ship moved silently toward a Zephyrian listening post. The aliens inside had No idea that the largest military fleet in galactic history was heading their way. The human fleet used quantum communication networks that the aliens couldn't intercept. Every ship could talk to every other ship instantly, no matter how far apart they were. This allowed 900,000 vessels to move as one giant weapon. Lieutenant Commander Cooper managed the communication network from the Titan's Fury. His screens showed the positions of every human ship in real time. "Sir, all fleet elements are maintaining perfect formation. No communication delays." Jake watched the tactical display as the fleet moved toward alien space. "How long until we reach the first targets?" 18 hours to the outer Zephyrian defenses, Lisa replied. "The aliens still don't know we're coming." She was wrong. At the Zephyrian listening post, sensor operator Klexva was staring at his screen in confusion. "Senior Tech, I'm reading something strange on long-range sensors." Senior Tech Vralmo walked over to look. "What kind of strange?" "Multiple contacts approaching from human space, but the numbers don't make sense." Vralmo looked at the screen and felt his blood turn cold. The sensor was showing thousands of ships, then tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. "That can't be right," he said. "Run a diagnostic on the sensor array." Klexva ran the diagnostic twice. "All systems are working perfectly, Senior Tech. The readings are accurate." Vralmo stared at the numbers. 900,000 ships were approaching their position. "Send an emergency message to Fleet Command. Tell them the humans are coming." The message reached Zephyrian Fleet Command 30 minutes later. Admiral Krellnos read it 3 times before he believed it. 900,000 ships, he said to his staff. "That's impossible. No civilization has that many military vessels." "Sir," said his intelligence officer, "our long-range sensors are confirming the report. The entire human fleet is moving toward our territory." Krellnos felt sick. The Zephyrian military had about 80,000 ships total. Most of them were scattered across dozens of star systems. They couldn't possibly gather enough forces to stop an attack of this size. "Contact all fleet commanders," he ordered. "Begin emergency recall of all vessels and send a message to the other alien powers. Tell them humanity is mobilizing for war." But it was too late for messages. The human fleet was moving faster than anyone expected. The first contact happened at the remote Zephyrian outpost of Station Delta 7. Commander Helen Garcia led the first attack wave. Her squadron of 5,000 heavy cruisers appeared in the Delta 7 system like a metal storm. The station's sensors went crazy as they tried to count all the ships. "This is Commander Garcia of the United Earth Fleet," Helen broadcast to the station. "You have 5 minutes to evacuate all personnel. This facility will be destroyed as payment for the murders committed at New Terra." The station commander, a Zephyrian named Trelvek, couldn't believe what he was seeing. 5,000 human warships surrounded his small outpost. Each ship was larger and more heavily armed than anything in his defense fleet. "Please," he transmitted back, "we have families here, children." "So did New Terra," Helen replied coldly. 4 minutes and 30 seconds. The evacuation was quick. Zephyrian families ran to escape pods while the station's small defense fleet tried to position itself between the humans and the civilians. It was a brave gesture, but pointless. Helen waited exactly 5 minutes. Then she gave the order. "All ships, open fire." 5,000 human warships fired at once. The weapons were designed specifically to penetrate Zephyrian shields and armor. The station disappeared in a flash of light that could be seen from 3 star systems away. The small Zephyrian defense fleet tried to fight back, but it was hopeless. 12 alien ships against 5,000 human vessels. The battle lasted less than 10 minutes. As the human ships moved toward their next target, they left behind a message beacon that broadcast on all frequencies. "Justice for New Terra. This is what happens to those who murder human families." Similar attacks were happening across alien space. Vice Admiral Patricia Stone led her deep strike forces against a Krellian military base. Rear Admiral King's siege squadrons surrounded an Astari fleet depot. Everywhere the humans appeared, alien defenses crumbled. The quantum communication network allowed perfect coordination. Jake Morrison could see every battle happening in real time. His fleet commanders reported the same thing over and over. Alien resistance was minimal. "Sir," Lisa said from her station, "we're receiving panic transmissions from across alien space. Military commands are trying to recall their fleets. But our advance is too fast." Jake nodded. "Good. Fear is what we want. The aliens need to understand the consequences of their actions." Captain Torres was leading a battle group toward a major Zephyrian shipyard. Intelligence reports said the facility was building new warships for their fleet. "All ships, this is Torres," he said to his captains. "Remember the rules of engagement. Military targets only. Any ship that fires on civilians will answer to me personally." The human fleet had strict orders about civilian casualties. They were not like the aliens who had murdered innocent families on New Terra. But military targets were fair game, and humanity had a long list of military targets to destroy. Dr. Susan Blake watched the battle reports from her laboratory. The new weapons she had designed were working perfectly. Alien shields collapsed under human fire. Alien armor cracked and broke. 2 years of research had paid off. As the first day of attacks ended, the galaxy began to understand what was happening. Humanity had built the largest military fleet in history. They were using it to destroy every alien military installation they could find, and they were just getting started.